Our first Week 6 injury report is here. 4 big names have landed on IR. I'm Joe Dolan, and this is the Fantasy Points morning lineup for Thursday, October 11th, 2023. Any stats you hear in this program, and there will be a lot of them today, will be from the Fantasy Points data suite unless otherwise noted. The data suite is currently 75% off for the 2023 NFL season over at fantasypoints.com, and you can check it out with a free 7-day trial. You can also subscribe to any fantasy content package. A lot of the stuff I'll be talking about today is from an article that's on our website with code GURIFIC25 for a major discount on top of the 25% we're already offering. So let's talk about those players on IR and how I'm handling them for fantasy. The most notable, of course, is Fantasy's Consensus 101, Justin Jefferson, who landed on IR with a hamstring injury. He will be eligible to return in Week 10. Now, there's no matching JJ's production, but let's dig into Fantasy Points data to see how the Vikings might try to get by without him. Per our Chris Wecht, Brandon Powell, of all people, looked heavily involved on the Vikings' final drive of the game this past week against Kansas City, but when looking a little bit closer at the numbers, Chris found that Jordan Addison was just as involved following the Jefferson injury, with a 27% first read target share. A 27% first read target share would be the highest mark for Addison all season, and now 35% of first read targets from the Vikings are up for grabs with Jefferson out. Addison also ran 85% of all his routes out wide when Jefferson left, while KJ Osborne and Powell were about 50-50 out wide and in the slot. This means neither Osborne nor Powell were filling the Jefferson role, and we should expect Addison to be that guy as long as Jefferson is out. I'm personally treating Addison as a high-end wide receiver 2, and Osborne, who has been the worst wide receiver in the NFL by yards per route run so far, as a wide receiver 3. Now, another really depressing name on the IR is the Dolphins' Achane. Now, here is how incredible Achane has been so far this year. Let's presume Achane before he gets contacted and Achane after he gets contacted are 2 separate players. If that's the case, here are the NFL leaders in yards per carry. Breece Hall at 7.17. Pretty awesome. Devon Achane before contact at 6.50. Nick Chubb at 6.07. Pour out a little liquor. Tyjae Spears at 5.78. That's pretty interesting. DeAndre Swift at 5.71. That's probably not surprising to you. And then number 6, Devon Achane after contact at 5.61. Yeah, he's averaging nearly 12 yards per carry. Those are Tecmo Bowl numbers. Now, obviously, with him down for 4 weeks, Raheem Mostert, who is the number 2 overall running back in fantasy, just ahead of Achane, by the way, in total points, is going to have a big role, and he's the speed guy in that Miami offense. But Jeff Wilson is eligible to come off of IR this week with finger and abdomen injuries, and I wouldn't be surprised if Wilson provides a little bit of a grinder effect in that backfield in games when Miami has to slow it down a little bit. I obviously think Mostert is a hammer RB1. You just can't sit him at this point. And I wouldn't be surprised if Wilson provides RB3 or even RB2 value while Achane is on the IR. Remember, Mostert also has an injury history, so Jeff Wilson could develop into an RB1 if a couple of breaks go his way. Also on IR, another running back, the Cardinals' James Conner. The Cardinals have our number 2 rush grade of the week in their matchup with the Rams per our offensive line, defensive line tool. So by our metrics, the whole running backs don't matter thing is going to be put to the test. Arizona's 2.66 adjusted yards before contact per rush attempt, which basically eliminates scrambles, is second only to the Dolphins. But James Conner, who obviously is on IR with a knee injury, has been far better than all other Cardinal running backs in that department, averaging 2.31 yards before contact per attempt. Now, the back we think will take the most work in Conner's absence is rookie Amari DiMercato, a stocky UDFA out of TCU, where he backed up Kendre Miller. The rookie stepped into the lineup and delivered 10 carries for 45 yards and a touchdown rushing, and a 12-yard catch on 3 targets for 12.7 fantasy points in a loss to the Bengals last week. Now, DiMercato has been the top back behind Conner since Keontae Ingram went down with a neck injury. Ingram's missed the last 2 games, and he's played well enough to be the top option with Conner out. But so far this year, DiMercato is averaging just 0.57 yards before contact per run, which is less than 25% of what Connor is averaging. Now, by the small sample metrics, he'll be easier for the Rams to stuff than Connor would have been. Ingram, though, is the top running back on the Cardinals' official, unofficial depth chart, and you know how I feel about those if you follow my content on Fantasy Points. But DeMercado was out snapping him on passing downs when both were active, and the Cards should be underdogs most of the rest of the way. I project DeMercado as a low-end but potentially useful RB2. And finally, the Colts put Anthony Richardson on IR. Now, let me use some stats from our Scott Barrett to describe how depressing this is that Richardson will miss at least 4 weeks and up to 8 per Adam Schefter. Richardson currently averages 29.2 fantasy points per 4 quarters, well ahead of the next best quarterback, which is Josh Allen at 24.9. The problem? He's left 3 of his 4 NFL starts with injuries. Now, you might have no choice but to drop him in shallower leagues, but the ceiling he's shown is so high that if you're in a 14-team league, a keeper league, a 2-quarterback league, you have to stash him on IR if possible, and if you don't have an IR spot, you probably just have to put him on your bench. Now, I'm not rushing to get Gardner Minshew in your average 1-quarterback league, but he does change how this offense is going to play, obviously. These wide receivers should get peppered with targets. Thus far, the rookie Josh Downs out of UNC, his target share has climbed from 15% with Richardson under center to 24% with Minshew. He's a viable bench wide receiver and potential PPR wide receiver 3 when the Colts are projected underdogs or are projected to be in a high-scoring game. And as for Michael Pittman, Pittman is still one of only 4 wide receivers to earn a target share of at least 20% in all 5 games this year, joining some alphas like A.J. Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, and Garrett Wilson. Minshew, though, has targeted Pittman 29% of the time, which would rank 7th most among wide receivers, even more frequently than Richardson, who targeted him 26% of the time. So Michael Pittman, strong wide receiver 2 with Gardner Minshew under center. Thanks for joining me for the Fantasy Points morning lineup. Remember to subscribe to the channel for more fantasy football content. Absolutely crush the like button and comment if you enjoyed this video. Are you using Josh Downs this week? What about Amari DeMercado? Let me know. What kind of dire straits is your team in? Now, you can catch me over at fantasypoints.com, use code GURIFIC25, and come see me in our subscriber Discord. I'll see you on Saturday morning with a full injury report rundown. Take it easy, everybody.